What if I told you that the key to overcoming procrastination is not discipline, but happiness? I know it sounds ridiculous, and honestly, a couple years ago, I would have scoffed at that as well. But if you're an entrepreneur wanting to overcome procrastination and feel more driven and energized and productive, then listen up, because I'm about to show you how I applied all this to my life to achieve high performance happiness and overcome procrastination for good. And to explain all this, it would make sense to start at the beginning of the story. And this story begins a couple years ago when I was meant to be doing work, but instead, here I was procrastinating, watching Andrew Huberman videos. And because I was avoiding my work, because honestly, I just really didn't like my work, I didn't want to do my work, I was procrastinating and watching videos. And so as a result, the work was piling up. But the even worse thing was that there was also something else piling up, and that thing was guilt. And that was piling up even higher. And the issue with this is that when we procrastinate and we feel guilty, that causes a vicious cycle. And it goes like this. We procrastinate, and then work and guilt and also stress piles. And when stress piles, we elevate our cortisol levels, and cortisol is just stress. And if we elevate our cortisol levels chronically, then we blunt our dopamine receptors, and dopamine is what actually motivates us. So if the receptors are blunt, then we feel demotivated, and then the cycle repeats and continues. We procrastinate again, and so on. And well, the question then is, how do we break free? Well, to answer that question, let's actually look at why we procrastinate in the first place. And the reason is simple. It's because we have negative feelings associated with a task. But that leads us to the next question, which is, well, why usually do we have negative feelings associated with the task when, after all, we know we should do the task at hand anyway because it's important to us? Well, the answer I found 99% of the time is that we have negative feelings associated with the task because we have poor match quality. And to explain to you what match quality is, imagine taking a Ferrari off-roading to the mountains. That's poor match quality. And as soon as your Ferrari comes across a river or some rocks or some mud, it's going to get stuck. And it's going to end up spinning its wheels, which is awfully similar to us spinning our wheels and feeling stuck when we procrastinate. And so the question then is the Ferrari being stuck the problem and is discipline the solution? Or is the real problem that the Ferrari isn't even in the right place in the first place, and this discipline, forcing the Ferrari to move, isn't actually going to help? And what if instead we took the Ferrari to the track where it's going to be productive and actually happily productive? Well, I'll let you answer that question on your own, but the truth is that when we take our Ferrari to the track, we then achieve high performance happiness. And to explain this, let me actually tell you what happiness is, or more specifically, the three levels of happiness. And well, yes, there are three levels of well-being or happiness, and they go like this. The first one is pleasure. And this is a hedonic approach to happiness, where basically your brain obviously wants pleasure. It wants dopamine, among other neurochemicals. And so you chase pleasure. Whereas the second level is engagement. And this is a high flow lifestyle, where basically on the second level, instead of chasing pleasure, you chase challenges, and overcoming those challenges feels rewarding and satisfying to you. So you no longer feel the need to be rewarded with pleasure, but instead you feel rewarded for your work because your work is just challenging in and of itself. rewarding in and of itself. And then the third level, when you achieve proper high performance happiness, this is a high flow lifestyle, but for a larger cause. So now you tackle tasks and challenges, and overcoming them, those challenges, is rewarding, but you also do it for a higher cause. So now you actually feel connected to your work. And that's like taking your Ferrari once again to the track, because your Ferrari loves tackling the challenges on that track, the corners, and it's like the driver inside also knowing why they're there. They have a big why, they have a strong why. Maybe they want to win the championship, for example. They have a strong reason to be there. And so now they're not going to procrastinate. And the question then is, how do we actually achieve, this high performance happiness, and how do we reach this third level? And the answer is that just like when it comes to aligning the Ferrari with what it's built for and taking it to the track, we want to align our work and life with who we truly are. And we do that by using what Stephen Kotler calls the intrinsic stack. Stephen Kotler is a researcher and author that talks about human motivation and human performance, and flow is one of his biggest subjects. And to align our work with who we truly are, we want to build out the intrinsic stack, basically. And when we do this, we align our work with who we truly are, and we become intrinsically driven. So basically, having intrinsic drive just means you actually want to do the thing. You no longer have to force the Ferrari to move. It actually has fuel for its engine. Just like when we align these and when we have these in our lives, we give our brain fuel. And one of the main fuels is dopamine. And when you have when you pursue your own curiosity and passion and purpose, once again, you give your brain dopamine, which is the fuel that motivates you. And to explain this, when you don't have any of these and you procrastinate, that's because your brain wants dopamine. Like, you know that, it wants dopamine. And your brain avoiding the task is like you avoiding going to your buddy's party because you know the party is lame. And so your brain avoids doing the task because it knows the task is lame and it's not going to get dopamine from the task. And so instead of trying to force our brain to go to the party that's lame anyway, why don't we just give the brain what it wants anyway and take it to a more fun, more meaningful party? And we do that by making our work more fun and more meaningful. And then your brain actually wants to do the thing that's more meaningful, and it no longer feels the need to get pleasure by scrolling and procrastinating. And the reason for curiosity and passion is because they're only actually the spark and the flame for the fire that is purpose. So what I mean here is that when people say pursue your passions, it's nice advice, but passion on its own is not enough. Because passion, as you probably know, is fleeting and it's just not enough. And you don't really feel truly connected to your work because you might have some dopamine there. So basically, by the way, when you have dopamine in your brain, it's like pressing the gas in your Ferrari. It motivates you to move. But when you reach the third level, purpose, which is the same as the third level of happiness, you not only have more dopamine, so you're pressing the gas harder, but you also add oxytocin. And oxytocin is a neurochemical that is responsible for creating trust and connection in our lives. And when you have purpose, when you do your work for a higher purpose, that's like you choosing not to go to that lame party and to instead, for example, take your mom for dinner because you know that that is more meaningful to you. And so when you have purpose in your life, when you do your work for a higher purpose, your brain chooses to do the work because the work is more rewarding and meaningful to you. So once again, your brain no longer feels the need to pursue pleasure. And when it comes to these two, we're not going to cover these today because these are the main ones for overcoming procrastination. But Autonomy is basically having the freedom and control to pursue your purpose. And that's like your Ferrari having a steering wheel. And then mastery is just getting constantly better and better at your craft in pursuit of your purpose. And that's like upgrading your Ferrari to post better and better lap times. But once again, this is the foundation to overcoming procrastination. And to summarize this whole video, basically, the reason you procrastinate is because your brain wants dopamine, right? Because it's rewarding. And so, since your work doesn't give your brain dopamine or any of the other rewarding chemicals, it chooses to, well, get the reward somewhere else from scrolling or from watching Andrew Huberman videos like I did. Whereas when we align our work with who we truly are, so, we take the Ferrari to the track, then we add dopamine and by the way, it's no longer cheap dopamine, it's the real meaningful stuff. And that way, our brain actually wants to tackle our work. And to be clear, that does not mean that when you reach this level and when you have purpose in your life, that everything is sunshine and rainbows and you're always going to want to show up to your work. There are obviously still times when you may not want to, but you still feel connected to your work. And by the way, obviously being here is not sunshine and rainbows either, because as you know, life never is sunshine and rainbows, or it isn't always at least. But when you add these to your life, you at least still have sunshine most of the time and maybe even rainbows. And basically, what I mean is you want to show up to your work and you feel connected to your work. So you no longer procrastinate because your brain feels rewarded by tackling the tasks and by doing your work. So, something in my eye. So, just like the Ferrari had loads of horsepower that it was wasting by being in the wrong place, you also have loads of potential within you that you may be wasting by doing the wrong work. And so I made this video so that you can hopefully align your work and life with who you truly are and actually bring out and tap into your full potential, because trust me, there's so much of it within you. So I hope this helped you, and if you would like any more help, then you can feel free to join my free school community below, the link below. And whatever you decide to do, I wish you all the best. And remember, it's already there within you. Ciao.